is already available in Bogotá, Barranquilla, and Cartagena, which is the third city. And we've quickly grown to more than 500,000 users, registered users.
Okay, whoa, so that must have meant that there was a serious need. So what made you found Tappsi?
Yeah, you know what, I think my favorite part of telling the story is that it really was born from a need that we felt one day trying to get a taxi on the streets, and we weren't able to sort of find one. So after trying to hail it for 10 minutes, Juan and I each took out our cell phones and said, all right, man, you call this company, I'm going to call the other company, and whoever picks up first, we're going to get that taxi. So after 5-6 minutes on the phone, we said, come on, and not have anybody pick up, we said, this is ridiculous. There has to be an easier way to pick up a taxi. So after literally 30 minutes of waiting on the street, we finally hailed a taxi on the street, and we started complaining to them. We started, what typical consumers do, oh my God, it's impossible to get a taxi, I hate taxis. And then after us complaining for like 10 minutes, the taxi driver said, you know what, I'm going to share a little of my needs. I'm going to tell you, one, why it's so unsafe to be a taxi driver in Bogotá, because we get, unfortunately, mugged once a month of people who just steal our cash, because unfortunately in Bogotá you can only pay a taxi with cash. So the taxi drivers pick up a lot of cash at the end of their ride. And two, their tool to pick up rides was a radio telephone. The same radio telephone they were using 25 years ago. And they said, of the 9 rides, or the 9 bookings that come with the radio telephone, I only get one of them, because it's not geo-referenced. So I'm just hearing noise, and all the rides are too far for me to attend. And that's my only form of working. So then we realized that it wasn't just an unsatisfied need from the consumer perspective, or from the passenger, but also from the taxi driver. So we started thinking, all right, this is where we need to sort of create a technological innovation for it. We started looking for inspiration of what we saw abroad in Uber in San Francisco with the black cabs. We started realizing that London had something similar with executive or premier taxis. So we said, all right, let's see if we can sort of adapt this technological innovation to the Colombian base of the pyramid need, and that was pretty much how Taxi sort of came upon.
Okay, so now you said that they had these radio dispatchers from back in the day, and now you guys work along with your different taxi partners, and are they still using these radios, or?
I think a lot of them are still, because they're still quite skeptical that the tablets or the smartphones are going to sort of replace the radio telephones, because they've used it for 20 years, and they're sort of like, I don't know, well this, yes, it's working right now, but I don't know if this is going to be the normal evolution of technology. So a lot of them haven't replaced it, but they have seen how a lot more taxi rides are now arriving through their smartphones or tablets than versus the radio telephone.
So the drivers the drivers themselves have the tablets?
Yeah.
And the smartphones?
Okay. Yeah, and to be honest, that was, I think, the biggest challenge.
Is to get that in their hands.
Yes, exactly, because the taxi drivers, well, obviously their per capita income doesn't allow them to have smartphones or iPhones like you probably see in the States or in Europe. So our biggest challenge was to say, hey, forget about your old Nokia 8510 cell phone that you were using, and jump to a smartphone and start paying data plans, because a lot of them didn't have data plans. So the first taxis that worked with Tappsi, we literally bought them a tablet, we bought them data plans, and said, hey, start using this, and eventually you're going to receive rides. Because we started talking to them, and they said, look, I've never used a smartphone in my life. I'm not going to buy a smartphone just to start working with Tappsi. So we really had to start creating this sort of awareness that with a smartphone, you can start using not just Tappsi, but you can send emails, you can pay bills, you can talk to your friends for free with WhatsApp, or you can use Viber. So we started selling all the other soft benefits beside a tablet, because that was our main challenge, to sort of tell them, all right, start using a higher cell phone, and start acquiring a data plan.
So was it kind of like in the States we have what we call tastemakers. So did you all strategically pick the taxi drivers that may have had influence over other taxi drivers, so that maybe they could start getting the word out? Or was it just like, okay, here, are you guys willing to do this? So, because you're not buying smartphones and tablets for every driver, right?
No. To respond to your question, I wish we would have been that smart. No, we started just reaching out to the taxi drivers, which were either friends of the family or known taxi drivers, because since we were giving them the tablets, we did want to have sort of a personal level of connection to make sure he's not going to run away with the tablet, which happened. I'm not going to say it didn't happen, it happened, but we wanted to sort of minimize that risk. So at first we just reached out to sort of our close network of taxi drivers, and those were the first people. But then we did start to realize that if we reach those, not trendsetters per se, but those influencers, those people that sort of represent a big radio frequency or a big group of other taxi dispatchers, we could then grow a little quicker. And that's a strategy that we then found, but we didn't start with it.
What's your monetization plan?
Yeah.
How do you monetize?
Right now it's free, and that was a strategic decision that we made. We didn't feel the pressure that we had to create a business model, because since there were already apps in the world, we knew that there was a proven business model. We didn't have sort of that, all right, how are we going to start making money? Nobody else is doing this. We knew that the way the taxi apps made money was charging either a surcharge for the ride or charging the taxi driver a set amount for every ride they make. So with that as a back end, we realized, all right, do we need to start charging now, or when are we going to start charging? We realized that if we're going to start charging the taxi drivers too early, we're going to limit the amount of growth of taxi drivers, and we needed more taxi drivers because we were growing a lot more with users than with taxis. So if I start limiting my growth of taxi drivers, charging them too early, I'm going to have way too many unsatisfied customers that are not able to find a taxi because they don't have enough.
Right.
So we decided to hold back on that monetization until we've reached sort of like a real good proportion or like a divine proportion of taxi drivers with passengers, and then we can start charging.
Sure.
But our idea is to start charging the taxi drivers per booking.
Okay.
Okay.
But have you registered or not yet?
No, we're not.
Okay. And when you start charging, how much will you charge? What is the idea? How much do you think would be okay for you?
Yeah, I think the market's going to tell us. I think we have an idea of how much we feel comfortable. And luckily another taxi app, which is called Easy Taxi, which is the rocket-based taxi app, already started charging in Bogota. So they gave us like a price reference, which is right now approximately 40 cents. They charge the taxi driver 40 cents per ride. So with that,
That's reasonable, yeah.
yeah, we're going to start looking for something very similar, because one, we don't want to damage the market. We don't want to charge too low and then sort of price war, but we don't want to charge too much for the taxi driver to sort of feel that we're taking too much advantage. So we're going to start with that. And I think something unfortunate of Latin America is that the way that the taxi apps obviously receive better profits is because they charge the passenger over the total of the ride. So for example, the ride costs $20, so it's a surcharge of 15-20% that goes to the taxi company. But that only works if the passengers pay their ride via mobile payments.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, mobile payments is, I would say, virgin, at least in Colombia. I think in the rest of Latin America.
In Brazil it is too. I mean, it's just beginning. Some people are beginning to talk about it, but I haven't seen it for
Yeah,
years.
And even in the States, we don't do a whole lot of, not the taxis. I mean, some of them, at least in Chicago, all the taxis take credit cards, but it used to not be that way.
So,
Some taxis in Rio are taking credit cards.
How have you one of the issues you said that the cab driver told you was security. So have you solved that issue?
no, not yet. I think that's the biggest challenge. I think we're not going to be able to solve it entirely, but we are trying to sort of make advancements to make that. One is the reason taxis don't pick up passengers at night is because of that.
Because of that.
They don't want to expose themselves to pick up a passenger, and the passenger does whatever and steals his money. So that's why the taxi drivers at night only pick up people that call or book a cell phone.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is sort of reinforce the fact that at least until it gets more safer, to sort of limit the amount of passengers you pick up at night in certain areas of the city without the app. Something we're doing, which is, we haven't done it yet. We're start talking and we're sharing our information with the police, and this is something, a very local strategy. Since there are so much safety issues in other cities, well, you never saw a taxi app that shared the bookings or shared the rides with the police stations. So a pilot program we're doing right now is that each police station is going to be able to monitor the taxis and the taxi rides that are happening at that exact moment in their sort of quadrant or their area. So if there's an emergency, a panic, or something like that, the police can quickly pick up the ride and sort of send people to sort of attend that emergency in real time.
But those people who are, taking money from cabs and such, I mean, are those the people that have smartphones that are, you know what I mean? Isn't there like a user profile that probably suggests that those aren't going to be the same type of people, at least not at this point?
I think you're absolutely right. At this point, no. At this point, it's pretty much people that haven't thought it out so well in their mind, and they just, unfortunately, given the still poverty issue that we're still living in this country, they're sort of desperate, and they said, all right, I'm gonna catch a taxi, and I'm just gonna try to steal it. It's not really premeditated, or it's not well thought out crime. So I think the people aren't gonna go through the trouble to buy a cell phone, which is actually gonna be more expensive than what I would pick up just to do that. And they know that all the users are registered, and we have their information. We can sort of, obviously through GPS, you can sort of pinpoint out. So I think that sort of gives the taxi drivers a sense of safety. And something we're really going to try to promote with the mobile payments, which I think we're still 8 months ahead of ourselves.
So it's still cash, even though you use the app?
Still cash.
Okay.
You were saying Brazil and some areas in the States, they have it, but here it's less than 0.5% of taxi drivers accept credit card payments.
Credit card payments.
So it's 99.5% all cash.
In Brazil, I think maybe 20% accept credit cards. It's very low too.
It's very low.
Cash.
But
taxis are paid in cash.
Where we're trying to go is eventually make these taxis a cashless taxi.
Yeah.
So the taxi drivers, and you can have like a sticker saying, look, I'm a cashless taxi.
Yeah.
So the robbers are going to say, I'm not going to see this guy because the guy doesn't have any cash on him.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to promote for various reasons is that the passenger can pay their ride electronically.
Yeah.
The taxi driver can have this money electronically, but he's not a victim anymore.
Yeah.
Because the robbers know that, hey, I'm not going to have any cash to steal, so it sort of disincentivates.
Are you just only in Bogota, or are you looking to expand, or?
Yeah, we're looking to expand. Right now we're in 3 cities, which is Barranquilla and Cartagena, which are 2 of the coastal cities. And our idea is next month to launch in Medellin and Cali, which are the larger cities in Colombia. And if we think the moment's right, if we think we have a competitive edge, and if we think it's not too hard to launch internationally, we'll think of going to the neighbor countries and sort of seeing how we can expand internationally.
You're a apps.co graduate, or you guys?
Yeah, we're graduates.
Can you tell me about that, your Tappsi's journey through apps.co? Was it helpful? Was it not? I don't know if you can spend a little bit of time talking about that.
I think something that characterized a lot of the Colombian companies or a lot of the Colombian entrepreneurs is that we're very scared to share ideas with other people. We're still of the mentality.
It's all over the same thing in Toronto.
Really? All right. So if I tell my idea, somebody can rob my idea. So we were very. We're not going to tell anybody what we're doing.
Yeah.
And with that apps program, one of the sort of great eureka moments is that we were forced to tell everybody what we were doing. And say everything, not your secret sauce per se, but say absolutely what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish, even if people are going to end up getting my idea and taking it. So there was, I think AppsCo helped to sort of change that paradigm in our minds, not just in our mind, but all the AppsCo graduates. I think at the same time, we for the first time had mentors sort of bash us, kill our ideas, reinvent our business plan, and go back to the canvas and draw it up again. So I think we really had for the first time people aside of the founders looking at your business proposition, looking at your model and saying, guys, I see a red flag here, change it up. So for 3 months, we were literally had like a switch in the way we thought. We had great help from mentors, from professionals sort of helping us accelerate. And our graduation was going to Silicon Valley, which is, I think, for any entrepreneurs, like going to Disneyland. So we loved it. We were visiting Google, Twitter, Foursquare, all the companies over there, and it was really just like an opening up of our mind to what creates or what helps an ecosystem like grow, and we realized that although in Colombia there's a lot of sort of the elements missing. I think the first seeds were created by the government, and I think AppsCo, which was a government-sponsored program, and I think Impulsa and ProExport, which helps Colombian companies think internationally. Because I think one of the problems that Colombian entrepreneurs have is that we're too close-minded and we're just thinking about Colombia and we're not thinking about taking global. So I think what we need is sometimes help from organizations like Pro Export to just say, you know what, probably okay, act local but think global. So we're really having people help us saying, all right, don't be afraid of going international. Don't be afraid of taking it to other horizons. And I think that's a mentality that we're starting to see here in Colombia.
And as you went through the program, were you able to raise any seed funding, any first rounds?
Not successfully, no. I think we weren't ready to raise, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And I think none of the companies were. I think we were projects that started 2 months ago. So I think it was too bullish to sort of, with just 2 months, without too much traction, to go to VCs and say, look, I have the billion-dollar idea, or I have the app that's going to change the way the world works. So I think it was a good exercise to go to Silicon Valley to pitch the VCs and really realize what we were lacking in order to make a decent case. So I think we didn't raise any capital. I don't know which of the other apps did, but we did have a face-to-face with VCs and realized why we weren't ready. And with that, we sort of took it back to Colombia. And with Juan, with my founder, we realized we weren't ready and we didn't want to raise capital at a moment. We had the seed funding that we received from Impulsa, which was $200,000 that sort of helped us grow the team, prove our business model, get some traction. And I think right now is the moment where we're now interested in sort of seeing what help VCs or angel investors or institutional companies can sort of help us take it to the next level.
So I want to hear a little bit about your thoughts around trends and what you think some trends are going to be for small businesses, and since you're one and you're successful.
I think the most important trend, I don't know if it's a trend per se, but I think the whole lean startup is, I think, the Bible that we've sort of used, and it's helped us immensely. I think we sort of stopped thinking of, we need a business plan, we need market research, we need to do all this stuff before launching our product. And we sort of said, no, there's no better market research than real consumers using your product and telling you what works, what not, what you're missing. So I think the lean is really helping us a lot. I think open data is something incredibly helpful. I think we started off using Waze and Google integrated in our app. So we use the API of Google and Waze. So right now, I think that's a trend that's really going to help other startups. Like, nobody can expect to develop their own maps and to work it perfectly. Nobody can be expected to develop their own either mobile payments or certain APIs that are connecting with social networks. So I think a very interesting trend that we're trying to work or trying to make even more is to use what other companies have sort of developed and sort of accommodate to our app.
Now, are you from Bogota?
I was born in New York, curiously.
Yeah,
Shout out
because
to
I'm
New York.
listening to you, I'm like,
Why did you pick up your English?
I'm like, I mean, seriously.
I love to say I'm Colombian, so they can say, wow, your accent's great, but no, I was born in New York from Colombian parents.
Sure.
My dad was working at the Bank of Bogota in New York at the time, so I was born there, and I moved back to Colombia when I was 9, and I went to an American school.
Okay.
So that really much.
There you were. Okay.
They take the credit for that, yes.
That explains it.
So what happens, because you know that Uber is totally international, so Uber comes knocking at your door and they say, you know, you guys have been doing a pretty good business here. Why don't we work out a deal?
To be honest, I don't know. That I'm not gonna lie. I think that has been like a cool fantasy. Or I wake up at night and like, oh my God, Uber bought us. Yeah, that would be interesting. But I think that's always a possibility. Not Uber per se, but I think there are other apps that say, all right, we either start from scratch and work our way up to get to 10,000 taxis and 500,000 users and find a way to sort of adapt our product to Latin American marketplace or buy an actor. I think right now we're not at a moment that we feel comfortable either selling. I think we still don't know what Tappsi is. I think we're just discovering it. I think there's a lot of sort of road to go. I think we haven't even, right now we're curiously launching our equivalent of black cabs within our app. The black cabs are white cabs here in Colombia. So we're launching a premium version of that, and we're still sort of learning where we can take this.
How many users do you have?
We have more than 500,000 registered users.
Wow.
And I think the metric that we really like to take pride of is that we're having 30,000 users per day. So there's
That's
30,000 users that are booking the app.
In all three cities?
In all 3 cities.
Now, I mean, well, one of the things that's interesting to me is when you talked about the safety of the taxis, working along with the police, and then pushing the envelope as it relates to technology and thought. Is there also a community relations, like CSR, thought that you have as part of Tappsi?
I think so. I think especially with the taxi drivers. I think if one thing that I think has helped Taxi grow immensely with the taxi drivers is that we literally built our app with them. We didn't just take our app and say, taxi drivers, start using it. We said, no, look, this is an app that's going to use to book rides. What do you want this app to have? Do you want a button that says, I'm busy, don't send me any rides? Do you want to be able to communicate via chat with the user? Do you want a button to say, I'm already here? You can go down from your building. So I think that sort of level of CSR, or that level of client relationship management, we've really focused on the taxi driver. So we have twice a month, we invite random taxi drivers to sit down with us and sort of chat a little of how the app's working, what else could we do, where do you see taxi becoming an important part for your life, not just from a tool point of view, but just helping you have a better living or better lifestyle. So we're starting to learn that, unfortunately, the taxi radio frequencies, they don't pay any level of pensions, of health, or any they don't treat your taxis as employees. So these people just work, and if they have an accident, they're not covered by any insurance or any company. So we're trying to see where we can become one step closer to being a formal employer and helping them prepare for the future.
Excellent.
Can you talk to us about this house?
We
were not necessarily about the walls and everything.
Well, it's a 1950 Victorian. No.
But, what we were told, that, this is a big space, you don't necessarily need all of it, but you want to create some sort of a hub or a community here.
Well,
so talk to us about why and why, why you decided to do that, if it's true, and, why is that important?
I think that's a key part of it. I think Tappsi started from a co-working space called Hubbug, and that's where literally Juan and I were working at just our normal desks. And we sort of realized that co-working space helped us immensely. Mm-hmm. Not just from asking other people, hey, do you guys have a developer? Hey, do you guys know a good designer? But we learned that sort of co-working was an essential part for a startup to grow.
Kind of like ideation, a lot of
Yes, exactly. So we were bouncing out ideas, we were asking them to be our beta users or beta testers. So we learned that co-working space helped us a lot to grow our company. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the co-working space helps you to a certain level. Once you're 3 or 4 employees, or once you need a personal space, you sort of have other needs. So we needed to move out here. We were lucky that my mom sort of lent me the house.
Oh, we love a good mom.
Right? Yes.
I mean, she has many more houses,
Right?
It's gorgeous.
So we realized that we needed our own office, but we still wanted to have that level of interaction with other startups. We still wanted to sort of be able to reach out to them and ask them for advice, or just chat to share our ideas and see what level of sort of alliances or partnerships we can make with them. So a lot of the companies that graduated from the apps sort of are our stage right now, where they need their own private space, but they want to sort of either have that co-working vibe or have that level of camaraderie with other startups.
So this is kind of like your give back, which is maybe part of the whole CSR piece too.
I think so.
With other small businesses.
Yeah, I think we were lucky that a lot of people helped us out, from the government, from other organizations, from just angels to say, you know what, I believe in your product, and I think we sort of want to try to encourage that, or try to just make that circle of life sort of still be there. So we're trying to create our own level or our own hub where companies can come here and sort of work and help them each other out.
Do you have any ideas for other applications?